let's start. I know that some of you are commuting or starting the day or finishing their day. My name is Aigul, and I'm a community catalyst at the DO Asia. So the DO is Impact Innovation Advisory from Germany, and our purpose is our goal is to help companies to be more purposeful, and we do it through our upskilling programs, through the workshops, both with companies and also NGOs. We work with UN, Jane Goodall Institute, and some of the biggest companies like H&M. Also here in Hong Kong, we have an initiative together with WLAB, which is called WLAB. And our mission here is to co-create a happier and healthier Hong Kong. And today we have a very special conversation and a very special speaker who is also my teacher. Her name is Dr. Belisa Vranich, and she is a clinical psychologist based in San Diego. She's also a best-selling author of 2 books and a founder of the breathing class. So Dr. Belisa, welcome. I know it's also the first time for you to speak to our Hong Kong audience, and so excited to see you.
Chosun, good morning, buenos dias. I'm going to unmute myself. There we go. You can hear me, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So good to see you. So how does the weather look like?
Good morning. I'm in San Diego, so it's the end of my day, and every day is beautiful here. I moved from New York City, where every day was different, and every day is the same here, so it's very different. But I'm happy here. Thank you for having me. Thank you, the DO, and thank you, Aigul.
Thank you. Amazing. Well, let's just start, from from the very start, because you are doing so many amazing projects, and your life story is also so fascinating. So how did it all happen? Could you just share like your story from a clinical psychologist to
Sure.
a founder of the breathing class?
Sure. So I started looking into breathing because I wanted my patients to have more things to do for their anxiety. And right now, the rates of anxiety and depression are very high. In fact, you told me that even in a local newspaper in Hong Kong, just yesterday, something came out about mental health. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Of course, with everything that is happening in the last 2 years, a lot of people need that help, but often they don't seek that because it's something not cultural for many of us to look for the help unless it's visible, right? And mental health is not something that is visible.
Yeah. Okay. So with my patients that have anxiety, I was giving them breathing exercises to do. So I was studying different types of breathing to be able to bring it to my patients, because although talking about your problems is very important, being able to regulate yourself and get yourself to feel better through the breath is actually brings success quite quickly. So that's how I started learning about the breath, was to be able to help my patients. And then again, I lived in a very stressful situation as well in New York City, so it was helping me as well. It had 2 purposes. I loved teaching so much, and the response was so good that I actually stopped my practice, and now I only teach. I actually only teach teachers to teach. And that's all I do, is breathing for different situations, breathing for different people, for different sports. And that's my focus. And especially now that we're in the middle of a respiratory health crisis and a mental health crisis, it's just terrifically important to know about.
Yes, absolutely. And, there was one phrase that I saw recently, and I can't remember the source, but they were saying that we can see the strength, like that someone is strong as a leader by their ability to relax, which often sounds a bit contradictory, right?
Yeah.
So how could you explain that, from the physiological point of view and also psychological point of view?
Beautiful. If you look at an athlete that is in flow, where everything is coming together, both the physical and the psychological. The breath is connecting them. So if you are a leader, whatever you're leading, your family, your company, your community, and you are confident and your breath is a relaxed one, you emanate, you know, positivity, and it makes you feel like a better leader. And definitely you have access to more of your intuition at those times as well.
Yes, I mean, and absolutely agree. And I was always wondering why is that like as leaders or caregivers, right? Which is often like also a lot of people that we have here this morning are caregivers. And what's been happening like in Hong Kong and in other places, that a lot of kids couldn't go to school physically, so there was a lot of homeschooling.
Yeah.
And what we've seen as well is that a lot of parents, instead of, there was just no time to take care of themselves. And even what, we call it like mom guilt, right? Or like a guilt to show this weakness.
Yeah.
How would you like, like what would you, how can they actually take care of themselves without feeling guilty?
Well, one of the best ways to take care of yourself is to take very short breaks to interrupt the stress. I call it ITS, which is that if you have several seconds where you can take a breath and just scan your body and take a good breath, because as you know, not all breaths are ones that relax us, but take a breath that is actually physiologically relaxing, you will feel better by the end of the day. So your body, you're not holding it in a tense place throughout the day without respite. You actually take a few seconds, relax everything, take a deep breath, first with the exhale, but we'll talk about that. And that sort of reboot that'll take you a few seconds several times a day is mind-blowingly effective as far as helping you be more resilient.
Yes, absolutely. That's something that I would really love to explore more, right? Like, because we always hear, yeah, just take a deep breath,
Yeah.
just relax. But honestly, when you hear this as an advice, just relax or just calm down, it's not something we want to hear, and it's not how it works if you're stressed. So, what is the right way?
Okay, so when you are told to take a deep breath, or when you tell yourself to take a deep breath, it's really because you'd like to pause. It usually means that things are going too quickly and you're feeling like you're losing control. So the first thing to do is actually exhale. And the way I want you to exhale is an active exhale, where you actually squeeze your body, narrow your body, you use your abs to get all the air out. Now you can actually take a deep inhale, a big breath. And there's a study I just found the other day by a researcher named Eric Pepper, Dr. Eric Pepper. And he found that when people are told to exhale only 70%, they actually get more anxious. And in general, we don't exhale well. We exhale very mediocre exhales. We don't actually exhale completely. We need to take those few seconds, exhale completely, and then inhale. And that inhale, it may only be one or two that you take, will actually be a bigger breath. And if you make sure that it's really a diaphragmatic breath, it really tells your nervous system that you can calm down and everything around you will slow as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so is like, yeah, like, of course we know that it's something that can be trained, but when I'm thinking, for example, about, this high, like that type A people, like leaders. So what makes them different, is it more like a discipline, or, especially when we are in extreme situations, and in the last 2 years, like, I think there is like no shortage of extreme situations anywhere in the world.
So I think that real leaders understand that the body is the machine and they need to take care of the machine. I'm having a lot more people ask me about brain health and how breathing can help their brain. And it's tremendous. If you breathe well, both diaphragmatically and in a good rhythm, and throughout the day, or at least at times that you've dedicated to the breath, is that it will support your entire body. It's not just about filling and emptying your lungs. A good breath or a breath work practice, whether it's 30 seconds 5 times a day or 10 minutes in the morning and the evening, will clean your brain. And I think this is fascinating, is that your brain sits in liquid, which is called cerebral spinal fluid. And this flushes out of your body 3 to 5 times a day, and it's on the inhale. So if you actually inhale well and you breathe well, you get this flush that cleans the brain to happen several times a day. So not just 2 or 3 times, you actually may be able to get it to happen 5 or 6 times. So it does clean out your body and really clean out your brain. And I think that's amazing. That's fascinating. Again, if you think about the brain and you think about what the second brain is, a lot of people talk about the second brain, and the second brain is the gut. So we've found that serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter, that's your feel-good neurotransmitter, it's made in the brain, but the second place it's made is actually in the gut, in your belly. So if you have good digestion, if your digestion is supported by the movement of the diaphragm, that's actually going to help your entire body as far as neurotransmitters. And I'll actually go into a little bit of detail on that because it's hard to understand how the diaphragm supports digestion. But if you think about the diaphragm, and it's about this big and it's in the middle of your body, when you inhale, it descends and it opens up your ribs and it pushes all your digestive organs down. So it supports what's called peristalsis. So your digestion is getting supported by this massage above it. And that actually helps your digestion, specifically acid reflux, irritable bowel, and constipation, but it also keeps your gut happy, and we want it to be happy, and we want it to be producing serotonin.
Yes, I mean, yeah, like it's just incredible, right? How like one change, right? And it's well, although it's not just as easy as maybe sometimes it sounds, can change everything, right? Everything in the body. And it's quite interesting because like I often hear as also like I'm a breath coach also, trained by you, Dr. Belisa. Like I also hear like a lot like, okay, is there any like quick fix, you know, for example, if I want, like I have a board meeting in a few minutes, and you know, how should I breathe? Or if I want to relax, is it the you know, the way to go, or it's more because sometimes we are also looking for, you know, like this quick pill.
That's
and,
okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing quicker than the breath. So if you're looking for a quick fix, the fastest thing that can change your body is the breathing. So what you have to think about is, do I want to calm down, or do I want to actually kind of get more excited? Do I want more energy, or do I want less? Because when it comes to the research and the science around arousal, is that you sort of want to be in the middle. You don't want to be on one side of the curve where you don't have a lot of energy. You're sort of not as awake as you'd like to be. And you certainly don't want to be on the side of the curve where your heart rate is too high, and you're starting to have problems with your fine motor skills or your memory, and your judgment. So you want to be in the middle. So I'd ask that person, do you actually want to wake up more, or do you actually want to calm down more? Because everyone's different. Everyone's different. And that's why it's important to be able to personalize how you teach breathing exactly the way you do, which is, what does this person breathe like? What are their goals as far as their mood and their energy?
Yeah, and actually, I remember like also your very famous phrase: "You can't change what you can't measure," right? So, can you please elaborate a bit more about the breathing
especially
IQ?
with breathing. Yeah, especially with breathing. Everyone says, take a deep breath. Or, you know, we have all these beautiful metaphors and poems around the breath, but we really haven't been told how to do it. And in the last 50 years, we've gotten to be absolutely terrible breathers. In fact, James Nestor, who wrote a bestseller about breathing and who's a colleague of mine, says it. He says we are the worst breathers in the animal kingdom. And we haven't always been. We've just gotten to be the worst breathers because we sit so much. Our posture's terrible. We are in front of computers even more than ever before. We're in cars too much because of the way we hold our stress in our bodies. So the breath has changed, and it's changed for the worse. So right now, what people need to do is actually look at the breath like a movement and think, am I moving well? So am I walking well? If you go to the gym and you do squats, am I doing a breath that actually has good form? Am I using the right muscles? And that's by taking something called the breathing IQ. And you can go onto thebreathingiq.com. You need a soft measuring tape, and you can actually get a score for your breathing, which sounds kind of funny. But the nice thing about getting a score is that now you have a measurement. Now you actually have a baseline that you can learn from, and you can actually get better with specific instructions. And then what you get to do is say, oh, goodness, I've been doing my exercises for 3 days and my back pain feels better, or my digestion is better, my energy is better. People have all sorts of reactions, not just, hey, I don't feel air hunger as I did before. And that's something that we hear a lot about. It's called dyspnea, is that I actually feel now like I'm taking a deep breath. But the things that can happen really ripple throughout your whole body.
Yes, yeah, it's absolutely, and it's also fascinating to see how it changes, right? And it's just so easy, because sometimes we can think, but I don't know if it's because so I'm doing something else, or like also as you said, diaphragm is like it's the organ that doesn't have nerve, and so it's not a muscle that we see that we can actually train.
You don't feel the burn. So when you do exercise and the next day you're like, ooh, I exercised a lot, my butt hurts, my legs hurt, my arms hurt. But with the diaphragm, you can't.
The diaphragm doesn't hurt.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Oh,
but your intercostals will. So if you do exercises, is that you will feel the little muscles in between your ribs and your core muscles. You will feel those.
Yeah, so no, absolutely, yeah, like it just I was just trying to remember, like when was the any time that someone would say, yeah, my diaphragm hurts, right? So maybe like we could show some of the exercises and do some practice. I know that so some of the people, you are at home or like even at your workplace, so it's totally fine. There is no need to like any special clothing, right, or anything. We can just do it.
So I'm going to actually ask you to do a few exercises, which is great. So if you go back a little bit more. So the main movement that I would like for you guys to practice is called rock and roll. So Aigul, if you would show what happens with the hips when you inhale and exhale. There is some movement in the hips. So on the inhale, you actually expand your belly, and don't worry, you don't have to do this for very long. It's part of the learning process. And then on the exhale, I want you to squeeze your belly with your fingers. And this will actually make you stronger. It will make your core stronger. So inhale, pop your belly, push it out, and exhale, squeeze your belly with your fingers. You're trying to get more narrow on the exhale. And keep going, Aigul. What I want you to notice about what's going on with her body, let's see if I can do this. This way, no, this way. There we go. Is that she's moving her hips. So there's a rotation of the hips. On the inhale, she has what's called an anterior pelvic tilt, and on the exhale, posterior. So notice what's going on with the movement in her back, and we want that. That's actually a good thing. So inhale and exhale. And what I want you to notice is that her shoulders are not moving at all. So there's nothing going on up here. Inhale and exhale. And she's doing it through the mouth right now, which is good, because when you start doing this, you pay more attention when you're blowing in and out through the mouth. And you can actually make a sound so that you can coach yourself as far as the inhale and the exhale, and keep them in the right order. So on the inhale, it may be a, and the exhale, it may be a ooh, or anything that you want. Any kind of noise that you want, as long as you have an auditory cue hearing that. So that's the sort of breathing right there that you can do anytime you're sitting. And most people will not notice is that you can be practicing this during meetings when you're on the phone, and you can be multitasking, breathing this way. Now, when you're breathing on the lower part of your body, the way Aigul is doing, is that this is more of a diaphragmatic breath. So now that diaphragm that's in the middle of your body, it's now on the inhale, it's pushing the ribs open. And now on the exhale, the middle of the body is squeezing. So right where Aigul has her hands, that's where the biggest part of the lungs are. So put your hands up a little further. There we go. So that's an interesting thing to look at right there, is that that's where the biggest part of her lungs are, and your lungs are, not at the top of your body. So that's why you want to inhale and expand right there. And this is the breath that will help you calm down, because the breath is the strongest connector between the mind and the body, especially when humans are navigating physical, psychological, or physiological stress. So this is what's important to be able to learn and do when you feel stressed out and want to calm down. And again, a little bit of stress can help you perform better, but too much stress is actually going to have your performance deteriorate and actually cause burnout in the long run. So let's go ahead and do an intercostal stretch, because one of the reasons you may not be able to get that deep breath is because your ribs are not moving. So the little muscles in between your ribs are tight. So I will go ahead and put one hand over your head. Good. Keep your bicep on your ear. So go ahead and move over. Yep, all the way over. And now on the inhale, go ahead and open up your side. There you go. So that's an inhale, not an exhale, because we're stretching the body from the inside out. Exhale, push the floor away and come up and squeeze. Go ahead. Inhale, and you're wanting to stretch the ribs right in the middle of the body. Inhale, inhale, and then exhale, push the floor away, come up and really squeeze your belly. So you're gonna do that. If you're doing this along with us, let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, open up your side, a little bit more, a little bit more. Good. Exhale, push the floor away. And on the next one, if you're advanced, you can actually do this. Inhale, and now look up towards the ceiling. There we go. That's a very nice stretch. Exhale, come back up again. And again, the reason why we're doing an inhale on the stretch is because we're trying to stretch the intercostals from the inside of the body out. You can't stretch them from the outside. It has to be from the inside. So we fill the container, then stretch it. Go ahead and do your other arm so you're not all wonky. Good. And again, you're seeing that her palm is facing up, and that'll help keep your elbow in the right place. Exhale, push yourself back up and squeeze. Good. Inhale. Keep going. And like you can see, she's bending her elbow, her other arm. She's starting to bend her elbow. So if you're not this flexible, you won't be able to bend it very much. But if you are, your goal is going to be to get your elbow down to the floor. And this has to happen without your butt coming up off the floor. So make sure that your sits bones, your ischial tuberosities, are nailed down to the floor. And then you're stretching without moving the bottom of your body. One more. Big inhale, look up towards the ceiling. Beautiful. And exhale, come back up again. All right, let's go over to another stretch, which again is for your thoracic cavity, because as we age, and I mean after the age of 29, I'm not talking about 50, 60, or 70, the rib cage gets rigid and it gets in the way of us taking a deep breath. So let's do some sort of a spinal twist. You can do any one that you want. Good, that's perfect. Okay, so if you're doing this along with us, one leg is straight out in front of you, the other one is over, and your foot is flat on the floor. So I want you to hug your knee with both hands. Go ahead. And now, Aigul, you're going to go over to the left. The other left.
The other left?
Yes.
Oops, yeah.
It's
too early.
It's too early. Okay. So you're going to exhale and go that way. Inhale, belly presses against your leg. And then exhale, you go around. Now that back hand, put it on the floor and grab the floor with your fingers. Good. If you can, you're going to take your right elbow and put it on the outside of your left leg. Outside, yep.
Yeah.
So go ahead, put it over your knee. There you go. On the other side, you're stretchy enough to be able to do this. Yeah. Good. Okay. Switch legs. Good job. One hand in back of you.
Yeah.
Good. Other side. There you go. Too early. More coffee.
Right, left. Yeah.
Inhale, push your belly against your leg, and then exhale, go ahead and look over to your right. Look in the direction that you're going. Exhale. Good. Exhale, exhale. And can you get your elbow on the outside of your knee? There you go. And I actually want you to push. Use your knee to push yourself a little bit further into the twist. Good. Inhale, let go. Big inhale, belly goes against your leg. And then exhale, twist, and have your eyeballs go all the way around as well. You're trying to get your chin over your shoulder and eyeballs come around. Okay? Yeah, that's a very nice twist. So that twist you can actually do in a chair, or you can do when you're lying down, and actually in bed lying down, it's a wonderful, wonderful twist. So we've got rock and roll, we've got intercostal stretch, we've got the twists, and with all of them, we're combining the breath, and the goal is to get your breath to be a lower body breath, and to be lower, but also to widen and narrow, widen and narrow. And that's something that you're going to have to practice. Now, when you go get your breathing IQ, if your breathing IQ is a C or a D or an F, these are the exercises that you're going to have to do. And we'll send you these exact exercises and 2 more to be able to get the mechanics of your breath correct. Now, once the mechanics are good and you have an A, now you can start to strengthen your breathing muscles. And if you're an athlete, whether you're an amateur or pro, whatever you do, strengthening your breathing muscles is going to be very, very important, because it's going to help you with your endurance. So do you want to do some exhale pulsations? Yeah? Okay, let's do some of those. Aigul is a runner, so she knows this better, definitely better than I do. So one hand on your belly, and I want you to blow out across the room from you and exhale each time. I'll do them as well. So let's just do 5 together so you can see what they look like. Okay, so each time you exhale, you are squeezing your belly hard. Exhaling, exhaling, and exhaling. The exhale nowadays with COVID and all the variants that we're dealing with, it's very important that you have strong breathing muscles. And this is one of the exercises to do if you're an athlete and want better endurance, but also to be able to be someone who breathes well and ventilates their body well with the breath. So exhale pulsations, you can do lots of them. You should put them into your workout. Aigul, how many can you do?
Well, once I did around 300, but it was a bit, yeah. Not every, I think like on a daily basis, I would strive for like 150 to 200. But again, that's because I'm a runner, right? That's something that I really need. Well, because normally it should be 50 to 60, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So your average person should be able to do about 50. And your athlete, if you're an athlete, you should be able to do at least 120, and then you should practice them. And you'll feel this almost immediately. But first, make sure your breathing IQ is an A.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I really enjoyed doing this morning practice together with you, because yes, exactly. And I think that's also quite a common question. When is the best time to practice? Is there any, like specific recommendation? Because I normally do it, I normally do everything in the morning, but then I know people who prefer it more like a bedtime routine, like pre-bed time routine.
So again, it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you've gotten to an A and you're an athlete and you're trying to get stronger breathing muscles, you do it during the day as if you were going to the gym. You do these exercises hard and seriously, and you sweat and do them. So that's if your goal is to change your endurance. If you are trying to wake up, you might do the twists, I'm going to tell you. So tomorrow morning, try this, or this morning, if you're still in bed, is that you're going to do the twists in bed, and then sit up and do some of the exhale pulsations, and that will wake you up. So that's an up-regulating breath, the exhale pulsations. At night, if you're trying to go to sleep, you're going to try to slow the breath down. You want to be able to take a really deep breath and completely slow it down. So if you're wanting to go to sleep and getting to sleep is a problem, first of all, turn off everything, all your technology, at least an hour before going to sleep. I know that's hard, but do that. Then what I want you to do is get earplugs, because it's important, not to hear anything, and the world is loud. And then I want you to find something to put on your belly. And it may be, don't laugh, the thing I really like is a bag of rice. So it's not expensive. And we all have at least one bag of rice in different sizes, but I want you to find sort of the one that's about this big, or cheap, put rice into another bag, but about this much, right? And I want you to put the bag on your belly. And what's nice about it is, because it's rice, it will sort of like form to your belly. So on the inhale, you're going to take that belly breath and push the rice away. And on the exhale, you're going to let it fall. Inhale and exhale. So the reason this works physiologically to start putting you into a state where it's going to be easier to get to sleep is that you're on your back. You are now breathing diaphragmatically, because it's very hard to breathe vertically when you're lying down, and you're controlling the breath. You're making sure that inhale takes a minute and that you're actually filling completely up. And you're taking that exhale and you're slowing it down. And again, if you're doing this because you'd like to go to sleep, through the nose, inhale and exhale completely through the nose. If you have a problem breathing through your nose, one of the things I recommend, and I don't have an affiliation with them in particular, but it's called the mute nasal expanders. They're these two little pieces of plastic that go in your nose and they open up your nasal passages. It feels lovely. Mouth tape, I love at night. So whether it's real mouth tape or, I've had people use Band-Aids, is that covering your mouth so that you're breathing through your nose at night is the most important time to be breathing through your nose. During the day, we just can't. We talk too much, we eat, we're doing all sorts of things where we need to be able to switch back and forth between the nose and the mouth. But the easiest time is actually at night when we're sleeping. So as you're doing those belly breaths and slowing the breath down, you'll be able to hear the breath more because you have earplugs in. And that actually is very calming, to hear your own breath inhale and exhale. So that should get you to go to sleep actually much more quickly. And yeah, what can I say? It works as long as your sleep hygiene before that time is good. So that's sometimes the hardest thing to do.
No, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree about the sleep hygiene, especially that, we're so used to be always available. And I think it's something that sometimes it's also a bit shocking, right? In terms of, the boundaries that sometimes we are expected. And it's mostly coming from us, that we are expected to be always helpful, to be always there. But in the end, can we actually be so, efficient and at our best?
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that if there should be questions, right? So you can either use the option of Q&A, and I see already a first question from Mark. So if you have more questions, please use either this like the Q&A option, or just put them in the chat. So we have a question on so what was the name of the nasal opening tool?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so you can breathe.
Yeah, I got it. So it's called Mute, M-U-T-E. And again, when anything comes out that's related to breathing, I try it to see if it's something I recommend and I would like. And I actually do really like this particular thing. And again, I have nothing to do with the company. But it just opens up your nasal passages. So that way, when you do tape your mouth, you actually feel like you still can breathe and your nose is more open. Again, if you have allergies, please be very serious about doing your research as far as turbinate reduction. There's a lot of dangers that go along with it. Not a lot, but it can go wrong. So if you do have allergies and if your doctor has recommended turbinate reduction, please do your research and actually try to get to the bottom of what you're allergic to, rather than having surgery. That's something I need to say, because empty nose syndrome is something that is a horrible possibility when you go into surgery to have something like that happen. And I just want to make sure that I put that out there as well, because surgery is not the answer when it comes to, often not the answer when it comes to things having to do with your nasal passages and your turbinates. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember
Have another
reading
question.
you're very stressed. Breathing can make it worse. How do you handle an anxiety attack? If you're breathing quickly, and you're breathing, yes. So yes, the answer is yes. If you're anxious, your breathing can actually make you more anxious. So there's a wonderful book. My favorite book about breathing and anxiety is by Robert Fried, Dr. Robert Fried. And it has breathing in the title. Breathe Well, something to do about breathing well. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact title. Breathing books tend to have very boring titles, my own books included, but Robert Fried is wonderful when it comes to breathing and anxiety. So what happens is that you get anxious, and then your breath is connected to the anxiety, and it starts getting faster because you're anxious. And then unfortunately, it can make you more anxious. So you're now stuck in this loop of anxiety. The wonderful thing is that if you stop your breath and control your breath, you can get yourself out of the loop of anxiety. It won't happen immediately. You have to practice it, but it absolutely works. So what I want you to think about, and this recommendation comes from a man named Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman. And he's in the military, obviously, and he's written 2 books. One's called On Combat, the other is called On Killing. And I do work with the military community, so that's how I know about him. But one of the things he mentions is just so easy, which is take a sip of water. And it's not because he wants you to be hydrated, but if you are starting to breathe too quickly, hyperventilate, and you're anxious, and you take a sip of water, what happens when you take the sip? You hold your breath. So for that slight second, you interrupt that cycle that you're in. So you take a sip of water, and then once you stop taking the sip of water, I want you to exhale. Again, exhale really hard, and now inhale. And you start slowing the breath down and controlling it, and it will bring you out of the panic. It will bring you out of the anxiety. Again, I want you to practice it, which sounds kind of funny, but you can practice controlling your arousal, and you should, because the breath is a tool. So you should train it, you should practice it, you should have a baseline, and then you should, for whatever situation you're in, you can use the breath to help you get in whatever frame of mind you want to be. So thank you for that question. Yeah.
I like the practical side. Yeah.
Good. So Jess, how can we manage my sleep through better breathing? So we just went through a little bit about breathing and sleeping. I don't know if you missed that. Aigul, if people have missed some things I said, can they go back and see this?
Yeah, so we will be actually we are recording this, so we will be sharing the recording with everyone who joined. Just sometime in in the next 2 weeks. So we will share that.
Great. Jess, I just went through a lot about how to get yourself to go to sleep through breathing. So you'll just have to watch what I talked about there. It involves rice and things like that. But again, sleep hygiene, we have terrible sleep hygiene right now, which is that we are on high all day long. And one of the reasons sleep has become such a problem is that we're in a stressed out state all day long. And it may not be bad stress. It may be that you're excited, and then maybe there's some bad stress. And then it could be just excitement as well. But there's no moments during the day where you're naturally just sort of rebooting. So when you come to the end of the day and you want to turn off and go to sleep, your body says, you know what, I've been on all day. I'm not going to turn off now. So that's the why we're having all these problems. So in addition to doing the breathing that I recommended, what I'd like for you to do during the day is take those pauses where you interrupt the stress And one of the things I like the most are inversions. So if you can have this at your office, if you're back at the office, if not, you can definitely have it at home. The gadget I like, again, I'm not affiliated with them, I just like it, is called a feet up. Feet up. And it is an inversion box. You can also just take 2 boxes of paper and put them close together. You put your head in the middle and flip up. Okay, so all the weight is on your shoulders and you're balancing against the wall. You're not balancing in the middle of the room because it's not a balancing pose. I just want you to be upside down. So once you get used to being upside down and breathing in that position, and as grownups, it could take you a couple times because we just don't spend a lot of time upside down anymore, is that you learn to take a couple breaths in this inversion, and it's a completely beautiful reboot. Your nervous system actually has to like turn off and turn on again. It's a wonderful feeling and it happens in seconds. So that's what I recommend. Well, can you see any questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a few more. So we have one from Rosa. Like, so do you suggest that we only do diaphragmatic breathing all the time in every and any situation?
No. I want, what I teach and what I teach my teachers to teach is that you have different ways to breathe that you have access to. Now, what's happening nowadays is that people are vertical breathers, apical breathers, which means it's a thoracically driven breath, which is either upper pecs or neck and shoulders. And if you breathe that way, you don't have a lot of choices about how to breathe. So you don't have a lot of choices as far as the depth of your breath or the pace that you can have with that breath, because it's such a small breath. So you tend to breathe more quickly, and there's, again, less choices. When you breathe diaphragmatically, you can use whatever pace you want because now it's a bigger breath and you can extend it. You also can breathe in different directions. So I work with a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu students. And what we do is that you get in different positions. And if you're a vertical breather, you're going to start to panic because, for instance, if you're stacked, which is a position where your knees are over your head, it's very hard to breathe. If you can breathe diaphragmatically, you'll know how to be able to breathe laterally and through your back. So what we want is that you have choices. It's the same thing with arousal. I don't want you to be completely in a parasympathetic state because that's not very helpful. And I don't want you to be in a completely sympathetic state either because, that's not very helpful either. I want you to be able to have a choice of the range of arousal that you want to be in. So it's about having that flexibility. And before, when we used to be diaphragmatic breathers, and primitive man actually had a much bigger diaphragm and a much stronger diaphragm, was much better diaphragmatic breather than we are now. Nowadays, we've really turned into these vertical auxiliary muscle driven breathers. And it's, like I said, it's affecting our stress, our anxiety, and different things inside our body. But I love that you asked that question, Rosa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rosa. And yes, we have 2 more questions. So one is, I sometimes have anxiety at work. Any recommendations to manage it better? So I think it's similar to the question on panic attacks, right? Yeah.
So this is good. If you have anxiety at work, so we can actually do a little exercise, is that what I want you to do is, if you can go somewhere private, go somewhere private. And it may be the bathroom. You wouldn't believe how many folks I talk to when they're in the bathroom because that's the place they have privacy. So what I want you to do is the first thing is notice when you're getting anxious as soon as possible. So don't wait until you're anxious. I actually want you to learn about your body, and I want you to be able to recognize, I get this feeling in my stomach, or my hands get clammy, or I start getting a little bit of a headache. Like, start recognizing when you're getting anxious and start, and then do your breathing at that time, not when you're already anxious. Okay, so let's say you're in the bathroom or you're taking a walk somewhere. What I'd like you to do again is exhale, and you're going to do, let's do 10 exhale pulsations, and then a big belly breath with the tip of the hips, and then a couple more exhale pulsations, and then we're going to slow down the breath. So let's just do a little exercise all together right now. Okay. So watch Aigul for the exhale pulsations because you'll be able to see them on her. So let's do 10 ending on the exhale, and then 3 breaths, 3 rock and roll breaths, and then 10 exhale pulsations again. Okay. So 10, 3, and 10, we can do these together. So exhale pulsations are like you're blowing out candles in the distance. In yoga, this breath it's similar to Kapalabhati in yoga, similar, but we're not doing it for the same reasons. And we're doing it for muscles and for physiology, not yoga philosophy. So go ahead and let's do 10, one hand on your belly, and let's go. Exhale completely. Good. Inhale, fill your belly, rock forwards. Exhale, rock back. Inhale, nice rock. It's comforting. Exhale, rock back. Make sure you have that hip movement. Inhale, rock forwards. Exhale, rock back. Okay, ready? We're going to do another set of 10. Big inhale and 10. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Squeeze, exhale. We're going to take a sigh now. Inhale, and now use your shoulders. Let's do that again. Belly breath. Inhale more and exhale. Let's do one more. Inhale. Inhale and exhale. And that's not just because it feels good. It's actually called a physiological sigh, and it helps calm us down. So those things, put them together. It's probably going to take you 45 seconds, not even a minute, and it will calm you down. So your heart rate will come down, your cortisol will come down, your blood pressure will come down. And then make sure you're telling yourself good things.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Belisa. And I enjoy, practicing it literally any time. We have another question, but I think it's similar. We actually just addressed it about, from Joss. Can you please do the breathing 50, 60 times a day through the nose? So we can see that again. So the one that runners can do 150, 300 times. So we actually did it just now.
Yeah, that was the exhale pulsations. And like I said, everything that I teach comes from sports science, from my work with military, with law enforcement, with first responders, with athletes. But a lot of it comes from sports science and yoga, of course. I mean, anybody who's doing breathing, it has to come in part from yoga for sure. Mm-hmm. So with exhale pulsations, I was working with law enforcement in New York City, and I couldn't say Kapalabhati. It was not a word that they would have been appreciative about. And again, you have to change vocabulary for whoever you're working with to be able to teach. And I changed it. It's an exhale. It's like a pulsation. It's an exhale pulsation. And again, the reasons we do it, it's not only because it kind of upregulates you so that you can then bring yourself down, which is how I deal with people with anxiety, is that sometimes it's hard to go from anxious to calm. So I actually want to meet you in the anxiety as far as your energy level and then come down together. I hope that makes sense. But the exhale pulsations, you can look up Kapalabhati. It's usually done through the nose. I just want to make sure that you're doing it hard, because the reason we want to do it is so that the exhale gets stronger. We want to do it because it upregulates you and then calms you. But then the other reason is because it makes the exhale strong. And the exhale should be a squeeze of the body. One of the things we get told is exhale, let go. And the problem with that is that exhale, let go ends up being a terrible exhale. So think about this. If I say inhale, exhale, let go, and now actually squeeze out the rest of the air. Let's do that again, okay? Inhale, exhale, let go. Now exhale. You actually had a lot of residual air in there. So it's not a very efficient exhale. When people say exhale, let go, they actually mean let go of anger in your head, let go of sadness. They don't mean don't squeeze your belly, let go of your belly. You should be letting go of your belly and inhaling and expanding on the inhale, not the exhale.
Amazing. Yeah, and that's something that our brain sometimes has big issues, right? To get used to, like. So we have time for one more question, and I just wanted to to bring and I know there are many questions, and so thank you so much, and we'll try probably to answer them afterwards. We can see like with some of them, but I wanted to address one more question about the basic breathing practices we can introduce to our teenage kids. So I know that there are quite a few parents of teenage kids right now. And again, as we mentioned in the beginning, even that schools are reopening, I think on 21st of April here in Hong Kong, but it's still not so easy. And I think lots of kids have been unfortunately suffering from from the situation a lot.
So that's there's several answers for this. So I'll go through some of them. Number one is that I do have a kid's book on my website, both in English and in Spanish. It's like 99 cents that you can download. I wanted it to just be something that people could download quickly that wasn't expensive on their iPads. It's called The Belly Breath. And it's a good place to start a conversation with your child, but it's not for teenagers. It's for very young children. For teenagers, having them do this on their backs is the best place, because as a teenager, you start being very aware of your body, start being very self-conscious. So taking a belly breath for a teenager in front of everyone is very, very difficult. So if you put your teenager on the floor and then put something on their belly, a blanket, a pillow, and have them do this breath, and have them choose the music that's calming that they want to listen to. So, you'd be surprised. Sometimes they are listening to some really good stuff. And if you can get them to get a song that's really calming for them, now they combine a song that's calming with a breath that's actually physiologically calming, and it can be really good for them. And anything you can add to them learning how to soothe themselves. So this is the main problem, is that they often go to their computers or their handhelds when they're anxious, and it doesn't really help them. They haven't learned how to soothe, how to calm down, how to have nothing around them and feel okay. So teaching them how to do this breath and giving them space and permission and supporting them doing their breath is the best thing that you can do with your teenagers. And they really do like the two-part meditative breath, Aigul, that you teach. They really do like that. So if you can get your teenagers to take a class, it doesn't have to be with me, it can be with Aigul, it can be my senior instructor, Crystal Hernandez, is on this call as well. But learning to do that two-part breath, it's called meditation for people that can't meditate, can be really wonderful for them. So thank you for that question, because our teens are having a rough time, and I would not want to be a teenager now for anything. It's really difficult. As a parent, what I want to suggest to you is that make sure you learn about the breath. And again, I have a certification that's an intensive that's coming up next week. But as a parent, you need to know how the breath works, not only in your body, so that you're modeling good behavior, but so that as a caretaker, you can also be able to help, be it your children, your spouse, whoever, people on your team, your friends, your coworkers, and not just tell them to take a deep breath, but actually be able to cue them in a way that is truly helpful, and understand how our breath works in our body, both physically and psychologically. So those are my 3 recommendations.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Dr. Belisa. I mean, we could talk for hours, I think, and it would be still so fascinating to learn from you. But yeah, so we are closing now. I know, because we're already we've had like 1 hour. It flew by. Like I just realized now. So we will be sending out a follow-up email. So that's where we will also put all the details on how to reach out to Dr. Belisa, like also you mentioned about the teacher course. So also like with the details of how they could join. I mean, I did it, I think two years ago or more than 2 years ago. It's it changed my life. It's amazing. And also I know that you are having your book, Breathing for Warriors, coming up in Chinese, right?
I am.
Quite soon.
I am. I'm so excited. I haven't seen the cover yet. I don't know what they're going to do. As an author, they don't actually let you pick the cover. I don't know if a lot of people know that. I didn't know that. I thought I got to pick my cover. I don't. So we'll see what they do with the cover, but I'm very excited about it coming out.
Tai Chi, maybe there will be Tai Chi or something. Yeah, but yeah, so we will definitely, so once we know when it's out, WLAB is still closed for visits, but once we reopen, as the restrictions lift, of course, for those of you who are in Hong Kong, you will be also receiving our invitations for in-person events, some of the workshops. Of course, we're hoping that we could welcome you, Dr. Belisa, also here in Hong Kong at some point. And do more together. But and also we will be doing a raffle of your book among people, everyone who joined today. And so please look out for the next event. So we will be having also a webinar on employee well-being. It will be also virtual, and then slowly coming back to in-person events as well. So yes, Dr. Belisa again, and yes, there are some comments also that I can see. Very informative and enjoyable session, awesome webinar. Thank you, Dr. Belisa. Yes, again, thank you also everyone for taking your time, either from your breakfast time or your evening routine, your commute. Thanks a lot for joining. And I'll see you hopefully soon.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.